So much for joining us today. We are really having some technical difficulties as it relates to our internet connectivity and our AT&T service.
I was able to get the record button going, though, so we should be good to go now.
All
Cross your
right,
fingers, knock on wood.
Let's do. Some days technology is wonderful when it works. So anyway, you all have set aside this hour to be with us today, and we do have some great information to impart. So I'm hoping that this continues to work. If it doesn't, we will reschedule this webinar, which is what we were thinking we were going to have to do. So let's keep our fingers crossed that technology stays with us. My name is Marilee Orsini, and I am so pleased today to be with you and to talk about the psychological journey of the buyer. We have a lot of information to present, and we also have two wonderful people who are joining me today, and that would be Amy Selly, who is a managing director at corecubed and has been in aging care marketing for a very long time. She doesn't look old enough to have been in aging care marketing for a very long time, but she is and has been, and she's really a fabulous person and truly does understand the psychology behind this purchasing decision. So, Amy, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, and thank you for the nice compliment.
And we also have Marissa Snook, who is another managing director. They co-manage corecubed, but Marissa also has another role, and that is administering our MOST program. And Marissa has been working directly in marketing home care now for 10 years and has become quite the expert herself. And I call her the SEO diva as well, because she really has, in the last few years, gotten heavily involved in our SEO services and truly understands them and is always pushing the boundaries in the SEO services. So let me just do a little bit of housekeeping, which I normally do in the beginning and I didn't, and that is that we are being recorded, and we have you all on mute. So if you want to ask questions, then you need to ask them on the right-hand side of your screen. Just type your question in there, and we will try to get to it. If we do not get to it on this particular webinar, then we'll get back with you with the answer, because we really think that understanding marketing is a crucial component of growing your home care business, and this understanding the psychology behind the buying process is really an important component to understand now. You can see on the screen our objectives for today, and the main objective, of course, is that understanding the psychology and the complex buying journey that the home care buyers, people searching for home care, experience, and also that the people who are referring into home care experience. We'll also talk a little more about content marketing and how it is significant, because it has particular ability to touch on some human emotions and also provide a value for those people who are in that journey searching for some solution to their care needs. And we'll focus on content marketing as a way to actually be where the person searching for care needs to be when they are at those different points in that buying journey. And then obviously we'll also help you understand how you apply that so that you can be where they are searching when they are searching and have them choose you, and then also gain loyalty from them and from your referral base. Let me just talk a little bit about the complexity of the process. I'm assuming that everyone on this call is in home care, or you wouldn't be here because you're interested in this. And so in home care, we are used to what happens in the complexity of this process and the confusion around the types of home care services that are available. But the problem is that when someone has a care need, then they really, if you think about it, only have two choices. They can stay where they are and get help, or they can move someplace else and get help. So we know they need help, we know they need care. It's complex, though, to find out where they should be going. I mean, when someone's in a hospital, for instance, and gets ready to be discharged, it is not at all unusual for that person to be given a list of lots of names, and that list might include agencies that provide the services they need, and then it might also include agencies that absolutely are not a match, and it can include agencies that employ their caregivers, and it can include registries. So it's a very complex referral process, and it's a very complex process to find out where you really should be. First, that decision is should you leave home or stay at home, and then the second part in it is if you decide to move, where will you move, and what kind of help do you actually need, and what level of care do you need. And the same as if you're going to stay home with help. Who's going to provide that help? Are you going to pay for it? Are you eligible for some reimbursed care? So it's really a very complex process, and this slide you're looking at gives you a little bit of an example, but this ties into the psychology of the person seeking care, because when they come into this process, they generally have very little understanding about what home care actually is and all of the varying parts. And some people who have been in home care for a long time don't understand it as well. So things that affect this referring process and the purchasing process. We've talked a little bit about the complexity. That really is probably the most important point because it is so complex and so hard to understand. But there's also a lot of emotions associated with that process. And the access to information, people can get access to information. There's not that there's not a lot of information out there. The problem is that information needs to really focus on the particular issue or problem that the person needing care has, and needs to also provide helpful answers specific to that problem. And in a minute we'll talk about the variety of problems and how that's so difficult to have that correct information that's going to suit just them and the right answer for them. The other thing, and we're not going to talk about this today, but the crucial component of is your agency going to be the one that actually gets the ability to service the person, and that probably also means the ability to do an in-home assessment of that person or to talk to that person, is who answers the phone. Because I know at least 90% of the people who are searching for care will pick up the phone after their research is done and call, but in some estimations it's 95% or more, because they do, we know that people search, widely search prior to picking up the phone, again depending on the time they have, but that who answers the phone is crucial. And also, once you've answered that phone, someone has got to consistently follow up with a person on the inquiry, and not just follow up blindly, but follow up specifically with information that refers again to the issue, the specific issue that someone is actually has, and with the right answer to what kind of care that they need.
And Marilee, if I can just jump in and highlight the first two bullet points that we have here, just to make a point. If you think about your ability to process complex information when you are experiencing strong emotions, you can start to see some of the uniqueness of the psychology that you're dealing with. So if you look at those first two bullet points, trying to process complex information through a range of emotions that you're feeling makes the process even more difficult.
Excellent point, Amy. Thank you. We have a bit of a slide here, a bit of a process here that shows what happens when you're actually getting a customer, and what is that whole process from when someone has that beginning of awareness of need, that's the very first circle at the top, into the next circle, which is really that that from a marketing standpoint, those two first circles are crucial, because when someone has an awareness of need, that is when they're going to start that search process. That is when they start to find out the complexity of the process, the complexity of the services and the industry, and that's also a time when their emotions are the highest. So where marketing comes in is in between those first two circles, because when they're looking for a solution to their specific problem. So they are researching options, and your agency needs to be considered in that research. So from a marketing home care standpoint, that's the crucial component. Once they have called you, then the sales start, because then that's when you do the home assessment. Maybe you will get the client, start scheduling services, and then you absolutely have to provide excellent service, whatever that excellent service means to that particular customer. It might be consistency of care. It might be the type of caregiver that you send in. It might be both of those. Lots of things may contribute to their satisfaction with you, but then you move into having them as a customer when other things matter. Marketing communications will continue to matter, because you also want them to serve as a positive referral source for you to their friends and their family when they need services. But what we're talking about today is those first two circles. Amy, would you or Marissa like to chime in and talk a little bit about this, because you both
Sure.
know how
Yeah,
different marketing home care is than marketing others?
absolutely. Yeah, I think not only is care in the home something that people don't plan for, but on a bigger scale, um, aging and some of the challenges that come with that is not something that people typically plan for, or historically has not been. And so, it is emotional as a human being to cope with those things. It's also emotional to see those needs in your parents, and it can be overwhelming to know how to approach that with your parents, to not feel guilty about that. But, to say the very least, it is an emotional process for everybody.
Yeah, and it could be something that the parents have been hiding their need for some time because they fear a loss of independence. They fear that they may have to go, their children may put them into a home when they want to stay in their own home, their own residence. So there's emotions both on the side of the elderly person and on the side of the adult child, as they're grappling with not only the fact that home care is needed, but then all of the stress of how are we going to pay for it, what's the right option, who's the right agency to go with, on and on and on.
And not to mention the people who absolutely refuse to have care from anyone other than their family, when the family cannot provide care because they're working or have other children, other issues and responsibilities. So
yeah, and I think this goes back to the point I made earlier that people come to the home care process in a state where they may not be at their best in processing information, yet they're presented with a variety of choices that they don't have a easy frame of reference for.
This is sort of looks like right brain, left brain, and it's not really meant to be right brain, left brain. It's just that is obviously a brain. It is divided into two parts, but the purpose of this slide is really to say that there is a rationale behind purchasing, and there is a psychology behind purchasing. So this feeds well into marketing, if you understand marketing. We're going to talk a little bit about marketing, which is not just sales, but this feeds into that later, because you may have a buying rationale, an analytical approach that one would make when they find out they have a care need, and they might try to base that on some rationale. What is the cost? You know, maybe have some criteria about who owns the agency or where is it located, or very logical process that you would normally follow to buy something. But then the psychology behind it, this is again this, when you're looking for care for a loved one, whether it's your mother, your father, your spouse, your child, I mean, it is care, and there are going to be psychological factors that are not purely objective that are going to come into play here, and that goes back to who answers the phone, and how helpful you are, and how well your agency is branded, so the person feels comfortable that you're going to provide a quality service to them. So there are considerations for purchasing services that fall outside of the rational and into the psychology behind that purchasing decision. Here's just some examples of what are the rational things that someone might look at, but also the psychology. And this goes into some of the things that we find most often in people who are searching for care for a loved one. And I would say that guilt and shame is probably a huge one, and that will also help trigger or influence other things that are going on.
Yeah, and I would also say experiences and expectations based on family and friends influence. I think a lot of people have heard elder care horror stories, and that has, set up a framework for their beliefs and what to watch out for. So that may be something that they are that's part of their psychology as they're interacting with your agency in the early stages. And just to go into like how would brand affect psychology? When you're in an emotional state and you are feeling compromised, when you see things like spelling errors on a website or information that's organized poorly, that is something that is, causes alarm for you, because you're not, it may convey that you're not able to trust that company. So just to put a little more of an example to that, why that would affect emotion.
And you never know which one of these pieces is going to tip the person one way or the other into making that buying decision. But knowing and realizing that all of these things can come into play is part of the battle.
The worldview of the consumer searching for home care. First off the bat, people really don't like aging. And it's not actually the aging you don't like, because obviously if you're not aging, you're not here.
You're doing something else.
You are gone. But so it is the idea of what happens when you age that people don't like. It also truly does put someone in touch with their own mortality when they're dealing with problems for their parents specifically. But I think one of the biggest things here is that very, very few people plan ahead for aging care. I think I forgot now what the percentage is that have long-term care insurance, but it's under 10%, I believe, or if it's not under 10, it's right around that. So very, very few people have bought long-term care insurance or even want to think about the fact that they might need some care as they age. I mentioned guilt before. I mean, I think guilt is the biggest thing, because maybe there were these promises, I'm always going to keep you at home and I'm always going to take care of you, and that guilt that you have when you're not the one providing the care and you're helping secure that for a parent. I think some of these other things, we've talked about this, but I mean, how do you pay for care if you don't have money in the bank? If the person who needs the care doesn't have enough resources to pay for the care, then you have to figure out other ways to do it. So Amy mentioned the horror stories. I think some of these other things that fall into, and you all will appreciate these, because almost every call you get, I'm certain that people think that their parents are special and different than anyone else, and they're the only ones that can provide that best care. So some of these things are just this world view that the consumer has when they're searching. I think the biggest thing, though, is no one knows, and you can make good guesses about it, but a person who's coming into this care scenario for the first time has no clue what the duration is, how much it's going to cost them, and how long this is going to go on, because it could be, and this is all different, because if someone went in the hospital, a healthy person, and had a hip replacement and had a delirium after that hip replacement, got mistreated for the delirium as a dementia, and went in that downward spiral, and maybe got MRSA or something, you know, what one would think would be a simple situation may turn into an very unknown long-term care situation. The professional, on the other hand, and this is a broad stroke grouping of the professional, because there are lots of professionals that are within the system that don't really understand the complexities of home care. They may understand home health care, they may not understand private duty, and they certainly may not understand the difference between private duty and registries, and they might not even understand the availability of services at home to provide the care that the patient may need. The big point here, though, is that when a referral is made to you from someone, that's an extension of them. So they have to be very, very sure that when they make a referral to you, that you're going to take care of that patient or that client in a way that will make them proud, and that will work for the long term. I think this natural inclination of thinking that private pay is too expensive, and the also natural inclination to think that a not-for-profit service might be better for a care solution than someone who's in it for profit, those are beliefs that we run into all the time. And this need to access information is so important for referral sources, because they want to be informed. They want to make a good referral. They want to understand what is the best referral, but it's really hard for them to get that information because of the complexity of the process and the complexity of the needs that each individual has and how those individual needs vary across the spectrum.
And oh boy, does that tie into content marketing.
And yes, it does. So there really are, in addition to all the complex reasons why someone may need home care, you are now, fortunately, because people do at least have an understanding that there is care at home. That wasn't the case up until about, I would say, maybe 5 years ago. But now people are thinking about, they may perceive a need and think that they may have a future need, and they might start that search process sooner. You might have a current caregiver who needs respite or is understanding they can't provide the care that is needed long term, and they may be searching now. Or that person that has that immediate need, that someone's been sent out of the hospital and needs care, or someone's come to visit a family member at home over the holidays and realizes, man, mom really shouldn't be living here alone. So really you have, at this point in time, you are getting at least a variety of inquiries that that you can, some will give you some time and others might not. But again, this feeds into content marketing as well.
Yeah, and if I can just jump in for a quick minute on the future need, I think a lot of times this is when they have identified something specific that their family member is doing, and so they want to look for more information about that specific problem that they're seeing. And so what would a problem like that be? You know, being forgetful. You know, it could be something simple that's related to a behavior, or it could be something related to a new clinical diagnosis, and they're just starting to gather information. And the word that comes to mind for me for immediate need is crisis. Now they're in crisis. Now there's that heightened level, the highest level of emotion, and because of that, the higher inability to understand the complex options that are available to them.
And how you treat each of these type of inquiries is going to be very different because of the different set of emotions that will attend each of these different type of inquiries.
There is current research that supports how people are actually finding information, and more, the buyer's journey, regardless of their emotional state or their psychology, it starts online. The people who search for senior care also oftentimes have no specific knowledge of any kind of local care options and start that search really with just a general search term such as home care, which may bring up home repair, window replacement, all kinds of things. So they have to really filter down through the specific types of businesses, and this is where content and website are so important, because what they're grappling for while they're doing this journey is some inkling of a solution to their problem and some inkling that the agency is going to understand their issues, their parents' issues, the care needs, and how to provide those care needs.
That second bullet just really stands out to me. I mean, think about that. 67% of their buying journey is done digitally. What if you have a really bad website? What if you don't have a website? Heaven forbid, they won't find you at all. That's huge.
Yeah. Or I think another point to add on to that is that what if you have a website and it lists your services, which are the same as every other home care company, but it doesn't solve any problems for people where they are in their buying journey. And so they know what you do, but they don't know, you haven't helped them in any way.
And I could say the same thing. You know, we mentioned about the 95% of the people who, when they have found your website and have found that they think you might meet their needs, then pick up the phone. It's also how you handle that inquiry. You know, this to me is the crux of how marketing has changed and what technology has implemented or allowed to happen for marketing, because in addition to looking things up on your PC, what's happening now is we have these micro-marketing moments. People who are out searching are searching on everything. They're searching on their phones, on their tablets, on their PCs. It's constant, that there is no time frame for when someone might be looking for something, or no specific place they go. It can be lots of different places. So it can be social media, it can be websites, it can be review sites. I mean, but the agency has lots of these micro-marketable moments all through their marketing efforts that they can actually try to hook someone in on, which really does does go directly to the content that people are putting out that would encourage people then to find them in one of those micro-marketing moments. This is just something that reinforces the micro-marketing moment in the customer's journey and how it is so influenced by just different factors that you would never think about at all, but how someone reacts on a sunny day to a rainy day to a moody day to a bad day. This is really more for product marketing, but I thought it was appropriate because it really does show that depending on these micro marketing moments that come through the day are also going to vary depending on where that person is in their day, their day and their psychology and their emotions on that day. This was before the latest Pope came to visit, but this shows the difference between 2005 and 2013. I thought this was an amazing photo because in 2005 we did not have cell phones used the way they are now. Look at the difference in 2013. So this just reinforces how we've changed and how connected we are to our digital devices. Marissa, why don't you talk about this one?
Sure. I am a woman of analogies, so in thinking through this presentation, this analogy just came to mind with the digital age, because in the past, the way that you went to market was very much put your information in front of people, whether or not they're ready for it, which I like to call bully marketing, because it could interrupt where they are in their buying journey. It may not be what the type of information that they're looking for at that time, but you are force-feeding it to them. Whereas with the advent of the digital age, and there's so many new ways for people to get information about your agency, increasingly they are doing the searching and they're finding exactly what they need. It's more of a, you are their savior, you're answering their questions, and they gravitate towards you because of that.
So how is it that we suggest that you attract these customers? We are suggesting that what people are looking for, and we've said this before, but this is pretty succinct here, people are looking for information and helpful resources. They're really not just looking for a listing of services. In fact, they may not actually understand the listing of services. I continue to be amused by people listing skilled as a service, and I would suspect that anyone who wants to have someone come in their home would want someone skilled. Now, in the industry, you understand skilled services means Medicare certified agency generally, but it's all that vernacular that we have within the industry that we label things, home management services, skill services, companionship services. I mean, we have all these names of things that we use within the industry, but someone who is searching for care is not going to know the nuances of those different things. What they're going to be looking for is information that can help them. And the content on the website and in all the social media and blogging and any of the places that content is being dispensed really needs to answer questions and respond to the emotions of that person who has some issues and is seeking care or seeking to refer someone for care. And that content can be spread everywhere and should be spread everywhere because, again, if you go back to the micro-marketing moments, you don't know if that person, where that person is going to be looking at any specific time, but it could be in any variety of places online that someone could search for information. We have some examples here of just, this is some, well, I guess this is from our MOST program, it looks like, but this is some examples of helpful information that we recommend. By the way, I think probably at least 50% of the people you care for are going to have some kind of dementia, so I would highly recommend that if you don't know about dementia, truly understand dementia, it would be beneficial to find that out. here's just another example of some COPD information. Again, think about the emotional state of the person that is looking for care, and what they're looking for is helpful information, not just, what do we do? So those are just a couple of examples. Now let's move in to talk about marketing a little bit, because marketing is something that is not that understood within the home care industry. And the reason it's not that understood in the home care industry is we label our salespeople as marketers. And this is not what we're talking about today. Marketing is what happens before sales happen, but it is not just sales.
And marketing is what supports the sales process.
And it starts with branding. And branding, as Amy mentioned earlier, branding is has such a psychological effect. I'm going to give just one example. We rebranded an agency recently that actually was an excellent agency. Really good staff, very committed people, been in business a long time, had an absolutely awful brand. And I think that's one of the things that we see a lot in home care. We see agencies that really have not taken the time to think about who they are, how are they different, what does their image look like to people when they come and look at their image, whether it's on their website or a brochure they have or their caregivers. But the branding component is really, it's very psychological, and people know, they know if it's right. For instance, if you're going to spend a lot of money on something and you've already decided money's not an object and you're going to go buy something, you're going to be very conscious of what the store looks like, how the merchandise is displayed, how it makes you feel when you walk into that store. I mean, that is a component of branding, and that same thing happens in home care when someone goes to your website, when someone sees your business card, when someone meets you or a caregiver somewhere. So branding is really a very important and first step in marketing, and I'd say at least 50%, maybe more, of home care agencies have never taken the time actually to think about their branding.
Right. And branding, as you said, branding goes back to creating a language that helps you speak to customers and address their feelings, as well as show the differentiation that your agency brings. If you think about home care agencies all basically offering the same services, your brand and how you speak about your company and its differentiation is really one of the only things that sets you apart if you're side by side with another home care agency. So your brand, how you speak as well as how you look is what sets you apart.
And that message, and it has to be a coordinated, uniform message that supports that brand. The importance of an agency website, if you all don't understand that at this point, then I really don't know what else to say, because
7%.
yes.
Yeah. Well, there was another caring.com survey question that asked how many people were going to see an agency's website, and I don't have the statistic at my fingertips, but there were more people visiting the website than just following the recommendation of their physicians who were doing the referral. So even if the physician had referred, they were still going to the website to verify the legitimacy and the look and execution of the business. So if you think that it's not important, you are sadly mistaken.
Behind the times. Social media is something else. I think social media is time consuming. It is, it's something a lot of people don't understand, but in this day and age, it does help bring clients if the social media is providing helpful resources, and helping extend the agency brand. And the other thing that social media does, if it's done correctly, is it enhances the search engine optimization, the way that the search engines are going to rank your website if your social media is active. So is there an inexpensive way to go to market and get results? We think so. And we're not going to talk specifically about that, but we've been doing it for, I think this is our, 17th year in business, and we certainly have found ways to take people to market to get results that that are not super expensive. So, and then the top 3 things that you should do as an agency, and number 1 should be the website. Number 2 should be that you, well, I should start with number 1, you should actually spend time on your brand. Number 2 would be the website, and the number 3 is that providing helpful resources so that people, when they do find your website, and those 67% of those people that are searching are then going to pick up the phone and call you. Now, what marketing is not? We almost always, and I don't think I've gotten that question today, but almost always get the question, how do I overcome objections to a gatekeeper? And that is a very strategic thing to do, and marketing is really not that. That is definitely sales, except that over time, if you're using the helpful resources strategy that we recommend, the gatekeeper will start to see you as someone, a partner, and someone that will help them, and that will overcome their objections. But marketing is never a one-time event. Well, oftentimes people will say, you know, I sent a postcard out and I didn't get any results. Well, you know, there's a lot of things that should have gone into the production of that postcard before, or an ad in a newspaper, or an ad in some place. So in essence, marketing is really not a short-term strategy. Marketing is a long-term strategy, very well thought out, very process-oriented, and consistent.
We like to say it's not a diet, it's a lifestyle change.
That's a good way to put it.
The other thing is that we are in a time where this really is a test and learn environment, and working digitally, so having a website, using social media, providing content, it really is a test and learn environment. It's not like the old days where all you had to do was put an ad in the yellow pages and wait for the phone to ring. This is really a whole different way to go to market. It's actually a really positive way, because you do have, because of those micro-marketing moments, you have a whole lot of opportunity to engage with people, and not just that one ad in the yellow pages. But it all starts with a strategy and then tactics that follow that. It also is very clear that you really need to have a good process in place to measure the inquiries, because you may get, and I'll take an example, I just got statistics from a client yesterday, a lot of statistics, fabulous looking statistics, lots and lots of inquiries, but when you looked at how many clients they were actually getting out of that number of inquiries, it wasn't a great conversion rate. And the other thing is, to those inquiries, you need to know which of those inquiries are actually turning into customers, and furthermore, which of those customers are actually your best customers, because it's very important to know where you're getting your business and how to get more of that business if it's good business. Another crucial point is websites are never meant to be stagnant. If you built a website and you have left it alone, then you are going to miss out, because the whole idea behind a website now is that it changes, and that's what blogging is about, and also the interrelation between social media and the website. So it cannot be stagnant. You have to continue to add new information, and there is new information constantly coming out, and information that is crucial to not only the search engines finding that website and parsing it again because it has new information, but information that's crucial to that search process. the other thing I'll say here is digital is not IT. If you're from a large organization and you have an IT person and they have done your website or they want to do your social media, you need a marketer to do that.
Yes, I will tell you, in all of the years I've done SEO, I am always learning because it's always changing. So it's not a simple process. It's very complicated, and I wouldn't recommend going it alone.
We like to say you engage with emotions and justify with numbers, because in this psychological process where the buyer is searching for answers, they are thinking about what they're doing and feeling about what they're doing, and that's two different things. So if you're approaching them from their thinking rational standpoint, and go back to the two brain halves earlier, fact sheets, list of services, certifications you have, credentials, best practices, who you are. That's one of the things, I'll just throw this in, that disturbs me when I see a website that has about us and then there's no about us. It doesn't say who the owner is or who the administrator is or who the people they're going to be seeing coming out to their home are. It's just, you know, some blanket generalization about we're fabulous, you know. So
Yes.
I think
Amen. Yes.
That whole thinking is people are going to want to have some justification with numbers. But there's also that feeling that they get, and this is truly where marketing is so helpful in branding, and that goes back to this preference for stories and visuals, because people want to get a positive feeling when they interact with you or your agency.
People want to do business with other people, and it's disconcerting when you go to an About Us page and you don't know who the people are behind the business. You are your brand, and people want to know, who am I doing business with? Who are these people? What are they like? If you can, you know, put up pictures of the owners or the administrators, you know, all of that helps to get to know your company better. And that's what they want. That helps to raise their level of engagement and their level of trust.
So we say the art is in creating the content. The science behind that art is in understanding the buyer's psychology. And I am always astounded that agencies think that someone within the agency would have the experience and the knowledge and the education to provide the marketing expertise needed for that agency. You wouldn't have a marketer, except for me, because I know I'm also a social worker, but you would not have a marketer go do complex client assessments or, you know, expect them to do something that a nurse would be able to do. But yet, on a regular basis, agencies expect their social workers or their nurses to have the knowledge and experience of a professional and experienced marketing firm. And, you know, this is the point of this presentation, is to educate you all about this complex buying process and the psychology behind what is happening in the buyer's mind, but also is to try to get you to understand that marketing has changed. The number of people that are searching online gets bigger all the time, and the information that they need to have is got to be helpful just to them. And so it really is a lot of strategy, planning, and work, plus talent and experience that goes into creating marketing for an agency that absolutely delivers clients. And we've been doing it a long time, and that is one of the things that we are absolutely fabulous at. I usually get a question from someone that says, well, how can I do all this? And I say, it's easy, just hire us to do it. Now, I think we have some questions. I know someone asked earlier about the webinar and will we record it. We are recording it, and we will post it on our corecubed.com website. We have an events page, and actually we have lots of webinars we've recorded there, and for years, and you might find some of them very helpful if you enjoyed this webinar today. If you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them, because I don't have any, at least I'm not showing any. But the positive is we actually had internet connectivity this whole time. So life is good. Well, if we have no questions, then you're welcome to email us your questions. We certainly appreciate your attendance today. Very sorry about the glitches in the beginning, although we had no control over those. So, Marissa, you want to switch to our contact slide so people will have...
I'm trying to, but it is...
It's not letting you do
there
that.
We go.
There we go. Fabulous. We have lots of ways to get in contact with us. We have programs specifically geared to home care, and we have products specifically geared to home care. So we look forward to your engaging with us in one way or another in the future, and we certainly hope that everyone has a good day. And Marissa and Amy, thank you for your wonderful service to the industry.
Thank you.